Okay, great. Hello and welcome, everyone. We're so pleased to have the writer, director, and producer of Hashtag Like with us today. Um, Sarah's film is screening at the Mystic Film Festival, and it's been a huge hit. It's such an unusual film, and we're just so excited to hear more about how you came about writing this film, making this film, and more about you as a filmmaker. So please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself and how you started writing this film.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for bearing with me there. So, in a nutshell, I'm someone who comes from a fine arts background. I'll just give you a paragraph for other filmmakers who are watching, particularly younger filmmakers. And I came to filmmaking through a kind of circuitous route of I started as a painter, I went to art school, I left, I went back to film school and did experimental film. And then had to make a living. So I came to New York. You can tell I talk funny. and I came to New York from England and had to make a living. So I started working in the commercial world and directed, worked my way up. I used to direct music videos, hip hop music videos mainly, and then worked my way up into directing commercials, documentary television. I directed a feature with the Beastie Boys called Free Tibet. I produced a movie called Flora's Garment that was a great kind of like a guerrilla learning curve to make my own film. And then as I was doing other work, I thought, let me try and find an interesting property to direct. And then I just couldn't find anything. Either I couldn't get access to it. People who've tried to option things know about this. A good friend of mine tried to option Orange is the New Black, and she said it was optioned before it was even, out on the streets.
Hmm.
And she'd heard about it pre-publishing. So I started trying to do this, and I couldn't. So I thought, I'm going to write my own story. That is easier said than done. And I wrote another script first, and it was just a really big budget. I couldn't get that made as a first time narrative film director, obviously. So I thought, okay, what can I make that is more of a chamber piece that's kind of more like a one act play? And I had been reading about all these different stories on the internet about predation, particularly of young girls, teens, tweens, even that ended up really sadly and badly. There were kids as young as 11 years old. I mean, people know there's a trigger warning here. This is a film about predation, sexploitation, and suicide. So there is that. So anyone who needs to can check out on that. Um, and it was a young person who said to me, "You have to put a trigger warning before this." And I come from a different generation where we're much more punk rock and just kind of like went for it. And it's great to be made aware of that. So
Mhm.
yeah, but anyway, so I wanted to write something that was a genre piece that really for women, when I first started doing this, we weren't getting a look in, and only would you get a look in if you did genre, and genre is, something that sells well, so you're allowed to the party, as it were.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just before Me Too kicked off, and I started reading these stories about predation on the internet. And I thought, I want to make something that's not a girl in peril, not a horror, more of a thriller, and have a really strong female protagonist. So that's where I came up with Rosie in the script. And she's going through a really difficult time, mourning the loss of her younger sister. And what does she do with that anger, and how does she deal with that grief?
Mhm. For anyone who hasn't seen it, who wants to see the film, how do you set it up without giving away all the good parts,
Right, all the twists and turns.
all the twists and
So
turns?
yeah, right. So the log line is Rosie, Woodstock teen, is mourning the first anniversary of her younger sister Amelia's death when she discovers the mysterious man who sexploited and bullied her sister to commit suicide back online trolling for new victims. After the authorities refuse to get involved, she takes justice into her own hands.
Yeah, it's a really intense film. You know, it's nail biting, and sometimes it's hard to watch. And but it's just an amazing story, and it's very relevant. Anyone who has a daughter,
Yes, yeah. I'm trying not to talk over you. That's why I'm being so quiet.
it makes
Yeah, no, indeed. It's like I made this film because I wanted teens to watch. You know, if you're having a slumber party at home and you're cruising through Netflix, watch this. Parents,
Mhm.
watch this. It really talks about predation on the internet. It's such a silent killer and it's such an invisible crime because a lot of people are being abused and they never tell anyone. You know, when I was
Right.
doing research on this, even my editor, who's a young guy, he actually was 18 when he first started working on the film. But
Mm.
I met him through the Edit Center in New York when the film was selected to be edited there, but that's another story. But when we were researching how to do the graphics for the film, because we had to recreate all our own graphics because we couldn't have real social media on there,
Mhm.
we had to research as I did when I wrote it. But I said, Matt, look, you have to look at, you know, how these sites look and how we can make something that looks
Mm.
like this. And
Right.
he said, all these people are registering on here and they don't even need a password. They don't even need a email. They're just fake usernames. And he's
Mm.
very IT, you know, savvy. So he was like, let me see if I can track this a little bit. And I was like, believe me, I had people when I was researching this try that. And it's really hard to track, you know, who's on here and what they're doing. And
Right.
they were, you know, you'd see these guys, I guess, because you don't know who you're really dealing with. But,
Mhm.
you know, some of them had, it seemed like real names and profiles following these very young kids, mainly young girls, and asking them to do weird things that I ended up putting in the script. But, you know, like these kids just open their laptop in their bedroom and they just let it run all day because they just think it's their friends and their social group and they want to be popular and get lots of likes and get lots of friends and, you know, hashtag like. That's why
Mhm.
this need to be liked and followed can lead you into a really dark, scary place.
Yeah. Now, your film is a real. It's truly independent, and it's such a success story. I'd love to hear how you got it off the ground, how you got it made. You know, it is a huge endeavor just writing something, but then taking the next step. Kind of walk us through that process, what you did, and how you got this film made.
Sure, sure. Well, number one, I didn't wait for permission. And that sounds like a really weird thing because normally people, I know we're doing a panel later and I'll talk more about the nitty gritty of it. But I think emotionally, once you commit to doing something, we're all pretty good at sticking to something. So I think there's like a don't ask for permission, move forward on your own, make something happen for yourself, i.e., I reached out to a ton of people I knew in the industry and I said, would you just read the script? Would you da da da? And a lot of people said, we love it. We're not going to be able to fund this. You're not a star director. And even the people you're casting who are amazing, Sarah Rich and Mark Menchaca, Mark had just been in Ozark and was incredible, but he's more of a character actor. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor. If you've seen him in the Outsider, the Stephen King series on HBO, and also more of a television actor than a film actor, even though those lines are getting blurred these days. But I reached out to a ton of people. And I said, you don't really have big stars in this, and you're not a star director. You're not, you know, you're not going to get a lot of funding. But what I will do is I'll put you in touch with this person, that person, and see if they can help you. Like, for example, I can't remember how I found my art director, Sam Bader, but I think it was through maybe Kelly McGeehee. I can't remember, who is a big time art director. She did the Andrea Arnold movie. So I reached out and I had friends who are in the business, you know, DPs, art directors, art department people. A friend loaned me his property to shoot in. I shot in a property that I have upstate, a cabin. You know, I just cut my cloth according to what I could afford.
Mhm.
And my proudest moment is that we had 3 hot meals a day. As a producer, everyone knows that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was figuring out ways just to make it work. A friend of mine who used to cast my hip hop videos back in the day reached out and she said, I see you're doing this movie. Let me cast it for you. And I was like, um, from Diane Foster Casting, Millicent Diane. And I said, oh, you know, I worked on a Queen Latifah video with her husband years ago, who was a A&R guy. I said, oh, Millicent, I don't have any money to do casting. I was just going to do it all myself. And she's like, baby girl, I've got you. And she came in and helped me out. And, you know, it was just great. And she, you know, we just paid for her assistant to come and help. So it was very moving. A lot of people came out of the woodwork and just said, you've been good to us, or we've had a great relationship in the past. Let me help you. So,
That's
you know,
amazing.
reach to your network.
That's amazing. It's so great. It's so great to have a network of people like that. And, you know, obviously, one day when they are making their own independent film, they might turn to you and ask you for a favor. I love that whole community spirit of independent filmmaking. Um, so the distribution of the film too is interesting. I'd love to have you talk about that. And you know, also it's very much, you know, in that whole independent spirit. And that it's another success story. So tell us what you did.
Well, you know, also we're in the middle of a pandemic, as you all know. So it was very weird to go to festivals, and we're just wrapping up our festival with you and maybe one other festival, and then that's it. But so halfway through, we did a premiere in on the West Coast, Northwest, and at Cinequest, and it was like, oh, fantastic, amazing. And then I realized that I was a bit of a novice to all of this, that, you know, I thought you go to a festival, you get accepted, people will approach you. And you do get sales agents approaching you, but those are the folks that end up taking a percentage of your film to then get it to distributors to then, you know, try and sell it and blah, blah, blah. So that isn't the answer. And then a lot of festivals are fan-based. They're more critical festivals. There are very few market festivals. So I was kind of learning that on the back end. I'd been so focused and doing so much of everything myself. I've been very focused on the creative. And then you keep having to go business hat, creative hat, you know. But then I said, okay, I'm going to hire a PR firm when we do our East Coast premiere at the Brooklyn Film Festival, which we did, Brigade, who are incredible and amazing and wonderful. Guillermo Restrepo, thank you. But he got the film out to a lot of sort of horror thriller aficionados, bloggers who have great websites, and they saw the film and really gave it a great push. And from there, I got people reaching out about the film, but ultimately the market is so strange right now. I wrote an article that you're free to link to if you want anywhere. It's on Filmmaker Magazine. If you Google my name, Sarah Pirozek, it talks about the distribution journey, and I'm gonna write another one at the end to wrap up as a part two about how it all sort of ended up when the film premieres out online in the world. But I decided to go for a personal aggregator, a curated aggregator called Giant, so I can self-distribute. And I'll talk more about that later, but you know, it gives you more control as a filmmaker. And, you know, we all love that, directors, producers, and it's very transparent. It's a way to see how the funding comes in, or the payouts come in, and how you want to market your film.
Mm-hmm. So after the film festival circuit is finished, where do you plan to distribute?
It'll be online. Sorry, talking over you. It'll be online. First of all, we're probably going to go to Prime, Amazon, and some other places. I literally just inked the deal last week, so we're still talking about that. And then hopefully we'll get through, because they have to go pitch it to different platforms, Netflix, Hulu, that kind of realm also.
So how did you get Mark on board? Did you know him, or was it through a friend of a friend?
He Yes, because Millicent introduced me to the supporting cast that she cast for me. Dakota Lustig, who played Rory, Liz Meanders, who I have to give a shout out to, who's amazing, who played the best friend, and Stacy by Jolene Marquez. They're all incredible kids, adults now. But Mark was a friend of Scott McGeehee, who is a filmmaker, and he just was at a party. And I'd been thinking about this film for a while, a couple of months, about how do I write this? What's the shape I want to do with this? And I met him at this party, and I said, I'm thinking about this idea for this film. And he's like, yeah, whatever, you know. I mean, he was very polite, but he as an actor, I'm sure you're hearing a lot of people saying, oh, you'd be great for this or great for that. And I said, I'm going to write you a script. You're going to be the guy in it. And I'll get back to you in 6 months. So once I had him in my head, the writing of it was so much easier. I found it, it really feeds the process, having someone in mind. And they say not to write for someone, but I like writing for someone. You can always shift it when you do your production or casting or whatever if you want. But anyway, so I wrote the script, and then I went back to Mark, you know, a little under 6 months later, and I said, well, here's the script I told you about, and emailed it to him. And I said, you know, I'd be honored to have you involved if you're interested. And he read it in 24 hours, got back to me and said, well, do it.
Wow.
And I was amazed. And I said, okay, caveat, a few. One, it's micro budget. There's going to be no trailer. There's going to be no, you know, honey wagon. There's no, you know, fancy stuff going on. And number two, it's going to be, you know, low budget, just as far as everything around, you know, payment and all that stuff. But I would love you to come on board. And he goes, sure. And I said, come on as a producer. And he goes, I'll come on as a producer. And so he was really committed to the film. So fast forward, we're going, okay, great. I get an actress attached. We're moving forward. I get my cast kind of in place, not my full cast, but some of the people in place and my crew. And then the actress I had attached had to withdraw at the last minute, like a week before we were going to shoot. And I was just devastated, because a lot of people have put their lives on hold to do this. And when it's low budget, you're putting more on hold because you're saying no to real money to do something as a favor, etc.
Right.
And I said to Mark, I don't know. I was just devastated. And he said, don't worry, I've got you. I've got your back. Don't worry. We'll do this whenever. And it was very weather dependent. So we had to shoot during a certain season. As you know, with the film, you see the changing of the season, and yeah. Which I kind of wanted emotionally for the film, that you see this, it gets darker in a way, right? The exteriors. But anyway, so he said, I've got your back, don't worry, and I'll hang in there. And meanwhile, in between that, he had done Ozark. So suddenly his star is hugely on the rise. And we fast forward 9 months later, and I go, we're back at it. We're going to do it now. And his agents were like, he's too busy, he can't do it. And I'm like, reach out to Mark. And I said, please. And he said, no, I'll tell them I want to do this film. And he squeezed in 8 days between going off to do another movie and then I think The Outsider, and was doing another movie before in Europe or something. And he squeezed in 8 days, and he came upstate to the Catskills, and we shot everything with him in 8 days. And then we did all the other shots, you know, like the returns, the opposite side, etc., and all the details and inserts, all of that without him. So a lot of the film, he's not even there. I mean, he did every scene with Sarah, and we shot everything with Sarah in order, which was great because they had quite the emotional journey, and I really wanted them to play and have the opportunity to just work it out. But yeah, it's a gift having him in the film. I mean, Sarah too, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just the casting is just fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, we have a few more minutes. I wanted to find out, what are you working on anything else right now, or are you free to talk about your next project?
Sure. No, I'd love to. Also, I just wanted to add, if anyone wants to follow the film, it's hashtag like the feature film on Facebook, Instagram, and they can follow me on Instagram. I'm Pixie Hale on Instagram. Please follow me because I'm actually better at keeping that updated. I have too many social media things going on, but you'll find out more about the film and you'll see when it's released for anyone who missed seeing it. I would love to have you guys follow me there. And you'll hear about new stuff too. But what I'm working on now is I have a feature script that I'm turning into a series that I'm pitching to British television called The Squatter's Handbook, which is a coming of age story set in the early 80s in London, about my teen years living off grid as a squatter. I was kind of like on my own at 16, and I fell in with this group of very political folk. We were, quite like we had a food co-op, we had a creche for kids, and this is not squatting people's houses. This was taking over government housing that had been abandoned and refurbing it, and then we formed a housing co-op and then bought it back from the government and created low income, affordable, very nice housing that still exists today. But it's the story of a coming of age story of a teenage girl, but then all the other characters, that were, I went through the Brixton uprisings. My neighbor was this 60-year-old Trinidadian World War II vet called Ramsey. He has a big part in it, who, we were very bonded. Surrogate father is a great story. Anyway, so it's really fun, and I'm putting that all together now.
That's fantastic. I actually lived in London in the early 80s. I did a semester abroad, and I had friends who squatted in a townhouse in West Kensington.
So you know all about it.
I know, I mean, not as much as you, but I know enough to know that that is an amazing story. I'm just so excited. I can't wait for you to make this.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, no, it is, and it's never been seen on screen before. No one's really explored that era or that world. So,
Yeah, it was an interesting time in London. I mean, it was, the punk scene, all this great music, politically very interesting. So
yeah, and so the music is incredible because you've got the new wave, you've got the punk, you've got the new wave, you've got the dub sound systems, you've got the reggae world, you've got all the crazy, soul funk, soul kids, which was a whole nother world. It's yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, good luck to you on that project, and I can't wait to hear more about it and eventually watch it.
Yeah, no, let's fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for your time, and again, thank you for the honor to have your film screened at our festival, and we look forward to seeing more of your work in the future.
Thank you so much also. Thank you to you and Trish and Pam and everyone involved with the festival. It's a really great festival, and I love how much you support and champion female filmmakers. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.